Located off the shore of Venice, Italy, is Poveglia Island. It's been said that this is the most haunted island in the world. However, it might be the most misunderstood. It's been said that Poveglia was used as a quarantine island for those with the plague. It's said that over 160,000 people have died on the island, most of whom were cremated. Their remains buried on the island, making up 50% of the soil. They say this old bridge was used to take the plague victims to the burying pits. However, when one starts to seriously look into the history of this island, it turns out that a lot of the claims are not true. When first arriving to the island, I have a sense of mystery and intrigue. It's a surreal experience being here in person after hearing all the stories about it. I first come across these statues sitting at the entrance of the hospital building. Entering in, it's evident that nature has taken over. Another claim about this island is that it was the site of an insane asylum, where patients were subjected to experiments by a mad doctor who went insane himself. But again, when you actually research into this, it turns out that this is not true. The island does have a rich history, and this history does involve the plague, quarantine, and hospitals. However, a lot of the sensationalized claims are just not true. The island's documented history dates back to the year 421. The first people to inhabit the island were trying to escape Attila the Hun. These people established a settlement where they fished and grew food. They lived peacefully on the island for hundreds of years. In 1379, these people were forced to move out due to Venice being under attack from Genoa. The Genoese ended up destroying every building on Poveglia except for the church. In the 1400s, the island was used as a checkpoint. Merchant ships going to Venice would stop at the island to pay taxes. What interests me most about this island is how can it have gotten such a reputation? Why do people claim that 160,000 people have died on this island, yet there's no record of that? How come it's said that over 50% of the soil is made of human ashes? People have claimed that the plague victims were dropped off here, left to fend for themselves and die, then being burned, sometimes still alive, in giant pits. Yet none of this is true. So how come this island's gained such a reputation in so many urban legends and stories? The bubonic plague, known as Black Death, certainly did sweep through Venice and kill many people. There was a plague hospital built on nearby island St. Mary of Lazareth. Also built on a nearby island, Lazaretto Nuovo, was a quarantine hospital for incoming ships with passengers suspected of having the plague. They would have to stop at this island for at least 40 days. It's thought that just simply with Poveglia being abandoned and looking creepy, this has led to its history being confused with these other islands, even though they didn't have as many deaths or anything like that as claimed as here. It's still thought that maybe this is what has inspired these stories. TV shows like Ghost Adventures have perpetuated these sensationalized claims, cementing in public consciousness the idea of Poveglia being the most haunted in the world. The 1700s did see Poveglia used as a quarantine island for incoming ships and cargo. However, it was for the least likely to be sick. The buildings I've been exploring were part of an Italian Navy hospital, most of which being built after World War I. After World War II, these buildings would be used as a tuberculosis hospital. Later, they were used for a geriatric hospital, and finally being used as a nursing home until it closed in 1968. Here we have a view of this octagonal fort built in 1645 to protect the island. These machines have been falsely claimed to be some type of torture device used on patients. Other people say that they're laundry machines. In reality, they're more than likely autoclaves used to sterilize equipment. The bell tower seen here is the only remaining structure from the Genoese invasion and dates to the 12th century. At one point, it was used as a lighthouse. Today, it's probably most famous as being part of the story of the insane asylum. The story is that in 1922, the buildings began use as an insane asylum. There was a doctor here who would perform lobotomies and strange horrific experiments on the patients. It's said that he was driven mad by the voices of plague victims, which drove him to climb the bell tower and jump to his death. Here's the spot where the doctor climbed. Like most of the other stories, none of this is true. The Navy hospital did, however, have a psychiatric department, but there's no evidence of such a doctor at all. There really is some beautiful architecture hidden away decaying on this island. Despite knowing the stories are most likely not true, there's still an eerie, mysterious feeling as you walk these grounds. From the top of the bell tower, there's no view of the island. Just an eerie thought that what if the story was true? This would have been where the doctor jumped from. The best vantage point to get a view of the island was from atop of this water tower. There was set up a seat for people to sit and relax. The Dolomite Mountains visible in the distance. A view of Venice as seen from the island. This building is labeled on a map I was using to explore the island as Insane Asylum. Whether it was or not, I don't know. Uncertainty seems to be a theme with this island. It's hard to really know what happened here in the past. When trying to research its actual history and past stories, what always comes up are just the stories that are not true. The asylum building's roof has collapsed, leading the interior to be totally taken over by nature. This building is labeled on the map as being a prison. Again, it's likely this is not true. It's likely that these small rooms with the bars on the windows got this building to be called the prison building. I now cross the old bridge into the alleged burning grounds, or plague fields. Walking these trails, you come across a bunch of fire pits. You might get the idea that this is part of the old burning grounds, but in reality, this is a popular spot for people to camp and take their boats. The locals actually view this just as a peaceful spot to hang out. This island is in fact the actual site of a burial ground. However, there are far fewer bodies than the claimed 160,000. In actuality, there are 20 burials on this island, 8 of which were plague victims. I take the bridge back to the main island for one last stop, the chapel. Leaving the island, I take one last look back, pondering all the stories and mysteries that led me to spend some time exploring this interesting, beautiful, strange part of the world.